In this module, we will cover both the personal statement and your specialties. To access both sections, you're going to first need to log into your Psychology Today account. Then you will click on Edit Profile. We're going to first start off by clicking on the Specialties tab, which will bring you down the page. Within Specialties, there are two sections you need to edit, including Top Specialties and Expertise, plus the note on Top Specialties. Let's first explore Top Specialties and Expertise by clicking on the pencil icon, which a pop-up window will appear. In this window, there are three sections to go over, including Top Specialties, where Psychology Today offers 75 different issues, problems, and symptoms that you can select from as a specialty. Then it's mental health, which allows you to choose between 6 different identified mental health conditions. And lastly, there's sexuality, which includes 3 categories to choose from. Now, under Top Specialties, Psychology Today encourages you to select up to 3 top specialties. Before you select any of these specialties, there's something important that I must show you first. As I mentioned, there are 75 different specialties you can choose from within this section. What might be surprising to you all is that when clients are searching on Psychology Today, especially if they choose to filter their results using the issues filtering option, they only have access to 61 of those 75 specialty issues. What? Yep, that's right. I actually went back and forth and I realized that both the issues within the filtering option and the issues listed within the back end of the Psychology Today profile, there are certain issues, symptoms, and problems that are actually missing. These issues that are not shown for clients to choose from within the issues filtering options include antisocial personality, chronic impulsivity, chronic relapse, coping skills, developmental disorders, domestic violence, emotional disturbance, family conflict, life transitions, marital and premarital, peer relationships, relationship issues, school issues, and teen violence. Now, personally, I'm not quite sure why these specific 14 issues are not shown for clients to select from. However, my educated guess is that Psychology Today tends to collect a lot of data regarding the usage of their website, and thus, those 14 issues may have been issues that clients are hardly selecting from, thus resulting in them removing them from the issues filtering option. So, what does this mean for you? All this means is that if you select any of those issues as your top 3 specialties, then unfortunately, clients are not going to be able to find your profile because those issues do not exist within the issues filtering options. What you need to do instead is you need to pick your top 3 specialties that exist both on the issues filtering option as well as on the back end specialty section. For instance, if you're a couples therapist and you wanted to select relationship issues as one of your top 3 specialties, but quickly realize that it's not an issue that clients can actually select within the filtering options, here are some issues that you can actually select as an alternative. You can consider selecting marriage counseling, sex therapy, infidelity, infertility, parenting, or any other issue that relates to the type of help and service you offer for couples in your practice. Don't get me wrong, I still encourage you to select any of those 14 specialties if they're connected to the specialties that you want to be found for. However, I would recommend that you select them as a secondary specialty, not a primary top 3 specialty. To select a specialty as your top 3, you want to make sure you not only check the box next to the specialty, but also click on the star icon. And lastly, please avoid selecting more than 10 secondary specialties. The reason for this is twofold. First, your goal on your Psychology Today profile is to come across as a specialist by using only 3 top specialties, not come across as a jack of all trades. Meaning, just because you have been exposed to working with different clients in your past employment experience does not mean that you're an expert in all things mental health. And second, you want to make sure that all your secondary specialties actually complement your top 3 specialties. Meaning, if you are also a couples therapist like myself and you specialize in infidelity, then other complementary specialties include marriage counseling and divorce. The best practice when it comes to marketing your private practice is you need to market to your ideal client. Knowing who your ideal client will make it much easier for you to market your practice, especially if you're able to figure out what your top 3 specialties are. To help you figure out who is your ideal client, follow these 4 steps. Step 1, pick the service that you're going to offer, whether that's individual, couples, family, or group counseling. And yes, most of us can actually offer all 4 services, but when it comes to Psychology Today, you need to narrow down your option to just 1 service. Step 2 is that you need to pick the population that you want to serve, which includes children, teens, young adults, working professionals, families, couples, elderly, or anyone else. Just like in step 1, in step 2, you need to focus on one population. And I get it. You want to help everyone, but the reality is you can't. There's not enough time in the day, nor do you have the mental capacity to be able to help everyone in this world. What you want to do is you want to be able to narrow down your option so that you can provide quality treatment to that specific population. Step 3 is you need to figure out the demographics of this population, which includes their sex, gender, race, ethnicity, occupation, education level, socioeconomic status, relationship status, parental status, and even immigration status. This demographic information will help you craft your personal statement when we get to it in just a few moments. And finally, step 4 is that you need to pick your top 3 issues that these clients are struggling with that you know how to treat. To select your top 3, instead of looking at what is listed within the specialties section, focus on what issues clients can select from within the issues filtering option located within the search results. Once you have figured out your ideal client, the next step is to press save and move on to the next section, which is the note to top specialties. Here, you will click on the pencil icon, which a pop-up window will then appear. This section allows you to write a brief description of no more than 400 characters, where you can describe the issues that you know how to treat and explain how you go about treating them. The main thing you need to keep in mind is that you need to not write from a clinical lens, but rather from a business one. What I mean is that therapists have a tendency of writing as though they are speaking to another therapist when they're using clinical jargon by which your everyday client has no idea what any of that means. Now, don't get me wrong, there's always an exception to the rule, whereby there are some clients who may have been exposed to counseling theories or anything related to counseling. However, they are the exception, not the rule. The rule of thumb is that you need to write in a way that simplifies what you do and how do you do it. For example, instead of writing, "I help adults by using evidence-based treatment such as EMDR, CBT, and DBT," you can say something like, "I help new mothers suffering from depression find ways to rebalance their lives." Do you see the difference between both statements? One is very jargon heavy, while the other is simple and direct. My recommendation is that you need to include all your 3 top specialties within this section so that clients are fully aware of exactly what do you treat. As an example, let's go over what I wrote. What couples can expect from working with me is A, an exploration of infidelity, B, discussions around ways to rebuild trust, and C, conversations about how to improve intimacy and communication. Couples whom I've helped have reported seeing an improvement within their relationship within 12 sessions or less. My goal in writing that statement was to express exactly what is it that I offer and how long can they expect treatment to last. Now, after you have completed your note, you will then click on Save and head to the next section, which is your personal statement. To do so, you will click on the About Me tab, which will bring you back to the top of the page, and here you can click on the pencil icon next to personal statement, which a pop-up window will appear. Within this section, there are 3 different paragraphs that you need to complete. The first is designed for you to write down who is your ideal client, the issues that they are struggling with, and identify what do they want or need when it comes to addressing those issues. The second is designed for you to explain your specialties and how you can best help your ideal client. And finally, the last paragraph is designed for you to encourage the client to reach out to you to book a session. I will now go through my personal statement so I can break down sentence by sentence of what I wrote and why I wrote it in the way I did. After I do that, I will end this module with some recommendations on what you can do for your personal statement. Let's focus on the first paragraph, which I personally label as evoke emotions and offer hope. Here's what I mean. If we look at the search results, you will see that every single profile preview includes 4 lines. Your goal when a client actually stops and looks at your profile preview is to get them to click on it. Think about it this way. If your profile photo's job is to stop the scroll, then the first 4 lines of your profile preview is to earn the click. To earn the click, I have come up with a strategy called 2 questions and a leading statement. If we are to look at my profile preview within the search results, you will see that it says, thinking of breaking up or filing for divorce after discovering your partner's infidelity, experiencing nightmares or crying spells as a result of the trauma caused by the cheating. If you're struggling to heal from an affair, now might be the time, ... Let's quickly break down each of these sentences. The first question is divided into 2 segments. The first segment speaks on an experience that my ideal client might be having. thinking of breaking up or filing for divorce. The second segment of the question offers the justification or reason why they are going through whatever experience I just mentioned after discovering your partner's infidelity. One thing to keep in mind in that question is I was very intentional around using the issues infidelity and divorce. The reason for this is because both of those issues are part of my top 3 specialties. My third specialty is marriage counseling. What was important to me is that that first question needed to immediately address the client's pain points or their main struggle or presenting concern. This to me makes me stand out because I am describing the client's lived experience immediately within the first statement. If we move on to my second sentence, I use the exact same framework. The first segment of that second question speaks on the experience that my ideal client is going through, experiencing nightmares or crying spells. And then the second segment of that question offers justification or reason why they are going through whatever experience I just mentioned because of the trauma caused by the cheating. Now, what makes the third sentence a leading statement is because if we go back to the profile preview, you will notice that the full statement actually gets cut off. When it gets cut off, Psychology Today places an ellipsis, which are the 3 dots that you see at the end of that sentence. The role of the ellipsis or the 3 dots is to create curiosity in the reader to imagine what comes next. So I figured by creating a long sentence that will automatically get cut off by Psychology Today, that would elicit some curiosity in the reader or the client who's reading my profile to actually want to click on it to read more. If we look at my profile, the third sentence says, if you're struggling to heal from the affair, now might be the time to connect with a therapist who can help. But if we look at the profile preview within the search results, it reads as, if you're struggling to heal from the affair, now might be the time, ... So when a client sees this, they might ask themselves, now might be the time for what? The way I constructed the leading statement is the same way I constructed the first 2 questions. I divide it into 2 different segments. The first segment is to point out their pain points, which for my ideal client is the struggle of healing from an affair. The second segment is when I introduce the offering of hope. Now might be the time to connect with a therapist who can help. You see, when someone is actually struggling with a mental health related issue, it is so serious that they are in need of a solution. As therapeutic providers, our solution is the feeling that is embedded through hope for change. So your goal with this first paragraph is to focus more on the hope rather than just solely focusing on their pain points. So with that said, the rest of the paragraph needs to start talking about hope. For instance, my fourth sentence actually begins offering hope through the use of specific pronouns. What I have found is that most therapists tend to use the pronoun of I when they're writing their personal statement. Instead of focusing on using the pronoun of I, since it comes across as very self-centered, I would rather you focus on both you and the client. To accomplish this, we need to focus on pronouns such as we, us, or together. These pronouns will offer clients an opportunity to consider that you both will be working as a collaborative team to aid them with their struggles. This ensures the client that they are not going to be alone throughout their healing journey. Now, if we read my fourth sentence, it says, let us work together to develop a recovery plan that can offer you some reassurance that your relationship is actually salvageable. When we break down this sentence, the first segment showcases that both the client and I are going to work as a team to come up with a solution, which I identify as a recovery plan. The second part of that sentence is geared towards giving a reason for that solution, which is to offer reassurance that the relationship is salvageable. Before I break down the last sentence of my personal statement, I hope that you can see what the pattern is. Part of that pattern is that I'm very intentional about every single sentence that I write. The main reason for my intentionality is that I need to come across as strategic when it comes to trying to communicate to my ideal client that I am the go-to expert that they should hire. Now, if we look at my last sentence within the personal statement, it states, continue reading to learn how booking a couples therapy session today is the best yet most difficult decision that you will ever make for your relationship. There was actually 2 purposes for me writing this statement in the way that I did. The first reason was actually influenced by the redesign of the Psychology Today profiles. You see, back in May 2023, Psychology Today did a complete design change for their profiles. Before May, the way profiles were designed was that you would only see the 3 paragraphs first, then came the intro video plus gallery photos. However, with this new design, as soon as you upload an intro video plus some photos, the second paragraph gets pushed down as the video and photos are then prioritized. So this sentence was actually structured in a way to encourage the client to continue reading instead of leaving the profile. The second reason was to offer encouragement to the client to consider the benefit of actually booking a session to help them with their relationship. As you may all know, there are many clients out there that are struggling to actually reach out to get some help. So I figured I would give the client some realistic expectation when it comes to booking a session, when I said, booking a couples therapy session is the best yet most difficult decision that you would have to make for your relationship. Now, when we head to the second paragraph, I took a different approach, which I call give value. You see, through my experience of offering business coaching to therapists, what I have found out is that many therapists, well, most therapists, consider that their value is centered around their credentials, such as their license, their degree, their trainings, their theoretical framework, and the graduate school that they went to. These credentials do make you a qualified professional if you are applying for a job. But when it comes to marketing a private practice, these credentials don't mean anything to your ideal clients. Now, let's go over my second personal statement paragraph. The first sentence says, with 13 plus years of marriage counseling experience, I specialize in helping couples repair trust, resolve communication issues, and rebuild intimacy due to infidelity. There were 3 specific purposes as to why I wrote that sentence in the way that I did. The first was to showcase my years of experience as a marriage counselor, 13. To most clients, the number of years that you have been trained and are actively working as a clinician tends to connect to your knowledge, your expertise, and your skill set. The second was to explain to couples how can I help them, which is to repair trust, resolve communication issues, and rebuild intimacy. And the third, and of course, was to place emphasis on the third top specialty issue that I want to be found for, which is marriage counseling. Now, for the second sentence, I wrote, we'll work together on how to forgive your unfaithful partner or spouse, improve trust after discovering the affairs, plus lessen signs of anxiety and depression as a result of the betrayal. For this portion, I was working to incorporate 2 distinct purposes. The first was to offer a list of 3 specific items that I'll be able to help the client with: forgiving an unfaithful spouse, improve trust, and lessen signs of anxiety and depression. Writing in this format, compared to listing off my credentials, offers the clients with clear expectations of what they can anticipate when it comes to engaging in services with me. The second purpose was to use the pronouns of we and together to showcase the collaborative effort that both the client and myself are going to work on as a way to heal them from the affair. Now, we will head on to the third and very last paragraph, which I will then label as your call to action. In marketing, call to action is a directive that instructs the customer to perform a specific action. Since each personal statement paragraph is limited to a certain number of characters, the first is limited to 640, while both the second and third are limited to 340, I find that it is best to use the first sentence of the third paragraph as your call to action statement. For example, the first sentence in my third paragraph says, submit your request here on Psychology Today or visit my website to schedule a consultation call. For me, there is only one goal and one goal only when you pay for a membership on Psychology Today, which is to get more client referrals. What I noticed after reviewing so many therapist profiles is that they tend to use this paragraph to continue to convince the client to actually reach out to them. But for me, I have decided that it's important to directly and deliberately tell the client what you want them to do next, which for me was to submit a request on Psychology Today or visit my website. Now, the next sentence within that paragraph is what I would consider a last offer of hope. What I wrote was, let's work together and make a difference in your relationship. As you can see, I continue to use the pronouns of together as a way to re-emphasize the collaborative effort that both myself and the client are going to be able to work together to help them with their relationship. And finally, the last 2 sentences I wrote are focused all on logistics, including stating my service fees, identifying that health insurance is not accepted, and the days, times, plus location that I offer services. Even though technically this information can be added on a different section within your profile, I find that most clients tend to focus on the main 3 paragraphs. The main purpose of adding this logistical information is to limit the interactions with prospective clients of them asking me the same questions over and over again, which is my availability and the type of payments that I accept. Don't get me wrong, there might still be clients asking about insurance, especially if you're private pay, but I find that adding that statement directly in that paragraph actually limits the amount of people who are reaching out who need to use insurance. With all that said, here's my recommendation on how to best craft your personal statement. For your first paragraph, you need to focus on creating 5 to 6 sentences by which each sentence needs to have a particular purpose. The first 2 sentences could be written as questions that directly addresses at least 2 issues that you specialize in that clients can select from within the issues filtering option. The third sentence needs to be a leading statement that will be cut off within the profile preview, which will organically create curiosity in the client to want to click on your profile. The fourth sentence needs to offer collaboration to ensure that you can offer hope to the client about changes they could make for themselves when starting services with you. And finally, the last sentence or 2 needs to showcase what the benefit would be if the client chooses to book a session with you. For the second paragraph, all you need is about 2 to 3 sentences. The first sentence should focus on placing emphasis on your experience as well as what specialties do you focus on, while the second and potentially third sentence would explain exactly how you help in the simplest of terms. Be mindful, please avoid using theories within your second paragraph. Your everyday client has no idea what theories are. Again, there's always an exception to the rule that there are some markets and people who are actively looking for someone who is EMDR trained, or CBD trained, or DBD trained. Doesn't matter, it's all acronyms. At the end of the day, what clients are looking for is an expert. So just explain that in the most simplest of terms. And finally, for your last paragraph, all you need is about 4 to 5 sentences. The first sentence should be your call to action. The second sentence should be a last offering of hope. The third sentence should share the type of payment you accept, whether that's insurance or private pay, including the exact dollar amount you charge. You see, even though Psychology Today does offer the pricing, which is right next to the personal statement, most clients skip through that. So it's best for you to actually write it out within the third paragraph. And finally, for your fourth to fifth sentence, you should offer some details around your availability, including days, times, and location, whether you offer in-person or online sessions. And here's a quick pro tip. To help your profile stand out within the search results, you may want to acquire the highlight and the italicized snippet feature. When a client selects an issue from the filtering option, Psychology Today will narrow down the results, showcasing providers who have included that issue word for word within their personal statement. If you include any of your top 3 specialties word for word within the first 4 lines of your personal statement's first paragraph, Psychology Today will highlight that issue in yellow within the search results. If you include any of your top 3 specialties word for word anywhere within your second or third paragraph, then Psychology Today will not only highlight that issue, but it will also produce what I call an italicized snippet, positioned above the first 4 lines within the search results. Having that highlight feature inside your profile preview within the search results comes in handy, especially if you specialize in an issue that not a lot of other providers specialize in. However, if it's an issue that many others specialize in, then I highly recommend that you want to consider adding the issues within the second or third paragraph, which will prompt Psychology Today to produce that italicized snippet. And when clients see that within the search results, to me, it increases the real estate of your profile. Either way, these tactics tend to work best when you're selecting an issue that is not necessarily competitive. What I mean by that is that there are some issues such as anxiety, depression, and trauma that most therapists tend to select. And by them selecting those 3 issues, those issues then become competitive key terms. The problem with selecting any of those 3 as your top 3 specialties is that if everyone else is selecting them, then it's very hard and challenging and difficult to compete against them, since every single other therapist is trying to specialize in those 3 issues. Now, I have found out that sometimes there are certain locations and markets whereby there are other issues that are competitive. For example, I have worked with some therapists from the state of Washington, and I have found out that the most common issues selected are anxiety, depression, and grief. I have also worked with some therapists out of Chicago, Illinois, whereby the top 3 issues are anxiety, depression, and eating disorders. So what does this mean for all of you? Simply, you need to truly consider what are your top 3 specialties that you want to be found for. Unfortunately, due to the amount of therapists that have a Psychology Today profile, if you choose any of those 3 specialties, anxiety, depression, and trauma, your profile may not be actually found as much as others. Now, don't get me wrong, if you want to specialize in those issues, be my guest. But you need to make sure that you double down and you explain specifically what type of anxiety, depression, and trauma do you specialize in. For example, do you specialize in social anxiety, postpartum depression, or childhood trauma? The second pro tip is that Psychology Today also highlights synonyms that are connected or related to your main specialties. For example, when selecting infidelity from the issues filtering options, you will see that Psychology Today also highlights the word cheating. After noticing this, I decided to start collecting a list of all the other synonyms that are related to the other issues that clients can select from. In a few seconds, I'm going to showcase on the screen all the synonyms that I could find when it comes to the top specialties. What I encourage you to do is just pause the video so that you can take a look at them. Once you take a look at them, make sure to incorporate any of those synonyms within your paragraph, whether it's in the first 4 lines or anywhere in your second or third paragraph. Now, are you ready? Here's the list. And my last pro tip is for any provider who is considered bilingual. Psychology Today understands that clients as well as providers may speak another language. So if you look at the top of the pop-up window, you will see a drop-down menu where you can select a second language, by which if you select it, the paragraphs will be reset so that you can write your personal statement in that selected language. And don't worry, your English version of your personal statement wasn't actually deleted. All you must do is select the drop-down menu and click on English, and your personal statement will reappear. Now, if we go and visit my profile, you will see under my profile photo the option to switch the personal statement from English to my second selected language. This is helpful if you tend to speak another language and you want to be able to market or showcase your personal statement in that selected language. Now that you have an idea of what to include in your personal statement, make sure that you click on the Save button. Now from here, I'll encourage you to go to the next module, which I will cover the finance section.